Hello, hello. Yeah, new video. I'm actually excited about a new list. It feels like it's got loads of potential, and I usually don't care that much at the start of sets, but there's a new way to build blue steel, and of course that excites me the most. So this one is, yeah, I'm going to call it the Alice build. I did a tweet the other day saying there's three sort of distinct ways right now that we can be building blue steel, and one is of course the classic whole new world. So we just dump things into the inkwell, and we wheel for a fresh hand, and we just keep playing stuff out, dumping and keep wheeling. Of course, that's still viable. Like that's never going to not be viable. It's how well it's performing in the meta is always questionable. You got the Cheater build as well. That's been very sort of well placed at the end of set five from Sky and Moyen, which that just I think that list's awesome, and that was definitely what I was looking at playing. But this one's quite intriguing, and you just get lots of options, lots of different lines, and we focus around this Alice card. Which is when you quest, you can give something ward and +1 lore gain. The +1 lore gain doesn't always come into effect, but it's an interesting point, and sometimes it can be the difference because you're gaining an extra lore whenever you use her. And also it has ward itself, so it's untargetable. So you're pretty much once you've played it, unless they've ramped to a big Sisu or a Be Prepared, you're gonna actually get the effect off. So there's two versions of this list as well that I've been seeing floating around. And by the way, this isn't my concoction. Like this is my attempt at the list, but this isn't like I've thought of the idea. I've seen in different spaces, just sort of in the realms of Lorcana on Twitter and Discord. I've seen a lot of people testing it and yeah, just saying how good it is. I still have a lot of questions about it. I still think a lot of testing, but it's really fun and we're in a very good exploring section right now. And I'd say looking at my one is very much a standard blue steel no wheel list, but we're just including Alice and we're using some other cards in there to just buff it up and make it fun and cool. But the other versions as well is worth mentioning is there's just a strong curve version, and when I say curve, in TCGs you're just basically hoping to go one. You basically hoping to go one, so that if there was a one drop, two into three into four into five, and then maybe cap out at five and just basically keep playing what you top deck, and hopefully you draw from things like Beast or however you draw. Maybe playing the Hieroms as well. That's pretty cool because you can go Calhoun, Alice, Pluto, and that's a really interesting board because you've got something that can really challenge things. Alice is going to be gaining loads of lore and protecting things of ward, and Pluto will mean that you can't really challenge into the board without dealing with him. So if you were to go Calhoun, Alice, Pluto, ward, protect, Pluto, they'll have to change everything into a 5 attacker, and the first hit will take 4 damage. And then after that, you can play Beast, and that should mean your Alice survives. It'd be very rare that she didn't. And then you can go Ward Protect Beast, so it's going to get that card draw off, and then next turn play all the other stuff. So there is an interesting one where you just don't play these aspects of the deck. You don't play the quill, the ramp, the items, and well, some of them have the hero minute, but most of them, yeah, it's not playing ramp, tower, dime, and things like that. But I am just sort of not really enjoying that much too much. It's basically like paint by numbers and play a curve. So yeah, play a one drop, two drop, three drop, whatever. But what is worth mentioning, so we have the sort of standard whole blue steel thing here. We can go Smee or Calhoun on two after a pop on one. Quill ramp, use the one ink if we want to. Next turn, play a Hiram, draw cards, keep dumping stuff in the inkwell, play a Tamatera out, and then use the dime or just close with Tamatera. We do have that option because this is still a lot of core aspects of standard blue steel. Because we're using the Quill, we still got Azurite Sea as well, which is what we're using as the alternative ramp option. But we don't have to do that because, as I mentioned before, these curve build decks, we can also do that line as well. If we're into a deck, say, like where we don't think we're going to get the quill off, or we don't really think we need the quill off, we just basically need to not get rushed down by some tempo based deck, we can go Calhoun, Alice, Pluto into Beast. And I'd say into something like Green Purple, that would be a fun line to do. Into Steel Song as well, there's a lot of aspects. I'm going to keep using the Steel Song probably as a reference point for the matchup. If you were to go Calhoun, Alice into Pluto into Beast, uh, I think that's just basically going to be a point where they don't really have much to challenge on the boards because they basically will be playing things like daisies and piglets and whatever, and they want to basically be rushing you. So once you start getting this board on, it's going to be protected. What they want to do is remove things with steel removal songs like Zeus and Strength of the Raging Fire and Let the Storm Rage On, but they can't do that because they're locked out of Alice. So unless they challenge things in and deal with her, they're kind of in a really rough spot there, and it's very strong. Whereas if we were to do the standard line that I sort of sometimes play against Steel Song, which is two drop and then Quill throw a Tinkerbell on the board. Now if they have a Zeus and they just respond and kill it, you're actually kind of really behind and really out of the game. So That line has just really been proving well. I mean, at least Calhoun on the two is very good because if you were to say throw in there, maybe protect her with a port, let the Storm Rage on, won't kill her. The way that Smeed, once he's turned sideways, he's just basically let the Storm Rage on target. So if you were to play, like they were to play a Cinderella, and for some reason they exerted it, I don't know why they would. You could Calhoun in, kill it, it wouldn't take any damage, then they wouldn't be able to let the Storm Rage on to kill it the same way they can with Smee. But that's a whack scenario because no one would ever turn it sideways. But yeah, Smee and Calhoun I think work in tandem. I think you can try Jim Hawkins, but my problem with Jim Hawkins is so you'll do it, and he basically means you have to ramp because otherwise it's 2-4. So you have to also play Quill on 3, or you have to play Sail. So yeah, that's kind of not really my preferred choice. So I like Smee, and once as well with Jim, you hit something on the snapback. You know he's got no attack, so if they've just got anything that's got the amount required to kill it, they just hit it in and it dies. So Smee's been pretty good. He's basically doing the same thing Calhoun's doing, but he also can be an aggressive lore quester as well. If you can get sort of Smee and Alice sort of comboing off together and just racing lore, and then Pluto as well protecting, like I say, or Cogsworth on top to give everything resist. So their odds of challenging in and like dealing with your board is really low. And maybe at that point, once they deal with what you've played out, um, you can just keep playing more stuff on top that you keep drawing. The only additions as well, I'd say that you probably won't see in other lists. I'm jumping around a bit here. Maybe it's just too much excitement. Is two Hades because I should mention this before I jump off. Before I continue on, sorry. I play two Hades, and I think that's because naturally this list, the way it's designed, would have a very weak matchup into red blue. So I kind of like the idea of having four Tamatoas, two Hades, and I can do the curve, but I don't think the curve's going to really work. The curve, when I say that, sorry, is the two drop Alice into Pluto into Beast. Don't think it's really going to matter to them. They're going to be sort of fine if you're doing that. So getting Hades out to deal their Tamatoas, and we just quill into our Tamatoas and do the standard no wheel versus RB matchup that you would do with a Cheecher build, but instead we just don't have Cheecher, but we still have the two Hades in there. So, and I also think Hades is just such a good tempo equalizer sometimes, just ramping in to deal with anything really, even like a Clarabelle or a big Cinderella. As when I first tested this list, I didn't have the Hades in, and it just felt like I would fall if they ever got the shift Cinderella off, and I just always wanted a way back into the game, because sometimes they might even just get to 7 ink, or they might even be playing Lanterns, and they're just going to be able to put her on the board, and she's just this problem. So I just find he's such a good tempo card to start sweeping things back, and the 1 ink shouldn't matter too much when you've got a 3/6 on board. Um, I do mention, I think it's worth mentioning as well, I feel like this list is kind of taking advantage of, uh, in a lot of the testing realms right now, online and maybe even locally, Red Blue is not really being highly thought after. I'm not, and this is no way saying that Red Blue's dying or gone away. It's completely like one of the best decks in the game. But it looks like a lot of people are trying and enjoying like green purple, purple steel, things with go-go, like RP, but like like maybe not RP burn, but people are testing a lot more aggro based lines, like even the more steel song aggro stuff. It looks like red blue has been put on the shelf for a little bit right now, and this deck's been able to shine quite a bit because the one issue blue still tends to usually have is it has to think about the RB matchup, and it's no matter how we build it, it's generally just going to be terrible. So I've seen a lot of the lists that have been building this, they kind of haven't really been thinking about it too much. I assume they haven't been because I don't see how Smee, Alice, Pluto, Beast beats that matchup. And if you play Cogsworth, you're just setting up the like biggest ever Sisu board you possibly can think of. So yeah, I think it might be taking advantage of that a little bit. So two Hades in there, Quill ramp into Towers and start playing things out. One Dime has felt fine, and mainly because you're not closing out a lot of the games with um, the dime in this build because you've been playing a lot of two questers, and Alice is in a sense a three quester because she'll give an extra lore. She's a three quester when you want her to be, so that's just really good as well. Uh, so it just ends up being this point where setting up the dime tapping stuff, it doesn't really come out that much. Maybe when you get to 9 ink and you just need to dime tap something and turn it sideways, that's when it can be quite useful. But one's been fine, if I'm honest with you. You really are focusing more on playing these characters out and playing that curve. And I've seen as well not a lot of lists to play Visions. I don't know why not. In no wheel lists, Visions is just an utterly powerful card. I've only got two in there because it was the only room I could find. But the more I play, the more I can see things that I think are worth dropping. A lot of the lists I saw when they started were like 4x's, so like everything was just 4x. And I get that when you start a list, you tend to just 4x everything out and say what's worth keeping and what's worth not, and what's worth including. I feel like 2P is fine, especially if you play cards like Visions. You tend to be able to find the Pete's when you want to. If not, it should be all right as well. You get to a point as well when if they reset the board, you can just throw Tamatoas until you win the game. So as much as it feels strange to play 4 Tamatoas in this list because you do just curve out these characters that are sort of looking at them they cap out at 5. I feel like Tamatoa is just a great finisher still, and he's not even needed with a dime half the time. He's just if you have the dime, it'd be really great to use it. So I've kept that at 1, but yeah, altogether the list's been very impressive. I think as well there's a benefit to having Calhoun or Smee on 2 rather than what's it called, Chicha, because a lot of the time it's like if you've ever anyone who's played no wheel, you will get a Chicha and like a Smee in hand, and you go right. So if this is a red deck, Chicha is just going to be the reason why I win the game. If this is any other type of deck besides red blue or red purple, I would really just want to play anything else on the board because they're just going to deal with it, and she's not going to do anything. She's not going to trade against aggro. She's just going to get steel removed against like a lot of the steel decks, so she's just not going to be that impactful. In this deck, it's like, right, I'm just going to be playing a 2-drop on 2. I just want a 2-drop, and I don't care which one it is. So that's just been really awesome. I found against Green Steel as well, you want to get the fire the cannons into the Diablo and stuff like that, but of course you can sometimes just race them. Honestly, like warding everything up, putting an Alice into whatever, yeah, going a Smee Alice into whatever, and then a Cogsworth and just turning sideways. Like sometimes they really can't even just deal with that. It's so good. It's You can almost ignore whatever they're doing, and they can't bounce things. They can't discard things, so they kind of just get locked out of the game. So there's just another matchup there that I think is really really powerful. But yeah, there's a lot I've been enjoying with the list, and yeah, the 2 options, like I say, you can play this like a general blue steel way too, quill, throw stuff out there, Hiram draw, reset, play a Tamatoa, as you just would play blue steel no will. Or you can do a strong curve, and you're like, and even sometimes that's a nice fallback because not every game you're going to land a quill. So if you want to just go Smee, Alice into Pluto into 5-drop and just play that curve out. And then I've found sometimes when you've hit that Smee, Alice, blah, 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 as I'm going to keep saying that line, just so everyone remembers the line, um, you will probably draw into your ramp or into your quill, and then you can start setting it up. And with the beast giving you some card draw, you might get the quill into whatever, start drawing with the Hiram, and then you just go from there. So you've got a really impactful, strong board. You haven't had to forfeit your board from turns 1 to X, setting up your ramp and ramping into bigger things, and then resetting from the ramp with the card draw. You've just been able to play along the strong characters, then start doing your ramp, which is also just really interesting. So there's just a lot to learn. I think the deck really needs to be run for its paces, but it's really quite strong. Having multiple complex lines for different matchups, but also your opener being like Porp into 2-drop is still just really strong. And I feel like any of the lines just work right now in the meta. I was just going to go mention a Mulligan as well. So they've only really put like no, a bit more than a couple days, and I've put a lot of research, asking a lot of players their sort of opinions on the deck as well, and like yeah, it just put lots of time into this deck right now because I really think there's something here. There's something a bit different. I can't say how meta it's going to be, how much it's going to win events. I can't say if playing it the way I want to play it with the Quill is better than playing it as the curve version where you don't play a lot of ramp cards, you just sort of curve it out and just play characters that cost the amount of ink you have on that turn. I was going to do a mulligan, but this is like the easiest mulligan of all time. You just keep a Porp and then trade them all away. um, I find in this one, so okay, that was probably the easiest mulligan of for blue steel, don't worry. But it's interesting to say with this. So if you were to get a hand like this, and you notice, hey, I can't do 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, 5-drop into a blind, even if it's blind as well. I'm going to do all these mulligans as blind. If you notice you can't do that, you at least can fall back on, well, we're Porp on 1. If they play anything, I need to fire the cannons. We can do that Porp. Ramp, play a beast out, and hopefully visions or, find a Hiram or whatever. So you've still got options to do that. It's basically finding the line that you can best do when you get the cards that you're drawn with. And I'll try to do another one. So here, you could easily start going, probably want to keep some inkable cards here, so maybe keep a sail. Yeah, I think I'll probably keep a sail. Or kind of want your turn 4, but maybe this is fine. You know, you can go. I'm gonna go Port. I'm gonna go Calhoun. I'm gonna go Alice on 3. I'm gonna go Visions, or no, Ink the Visions. Sorry, that's why I've kept it in the hand, and then we can get the Cogsworth down. So if we're to do something like that, I mean that's not what I wanted to see. I wanted to see a 4 drop there, but yeah, you can easily just play the Ink of Visions or Ink the Tinkerbell and say I'm not going to reach her in time. Play the Porpskull out. Play the Calhoun out. Um, then you can get the Alice down. If you haven't drawn a 4 drop by that point, you could sail, or maybe we can start doing something like actually I'll sail on 3, play the Alice the following turn, and play something else. But yeah, it's sort of just figuring out the lines, figuring out the best value you can have each turn, and I'll do one more. So, okay, this one will be a very interesting one. Again, you can't find the 4 drop, which is basically Pluto or Hiram. Um, you can just do Calhoun into Alice into Beast. Um, or into Cogsworth. I'd probably take Beast over it because it is card draw. I'd say if you're on the draw, I would keep the Fire the Cannons. On the play, you would send that back for now. So if you're on the play, keep it. On the draw, I'd send it back. But yeah, I don't think this is the worst. We're going to keep this for ink or possible use, but right now we'll send all that back. And then I guess you could do double Alice. That'd just be quite nice. The thing is, Alice is not alone is not much of a threat on the board. She kind of, yeah, she's not much of a threat because she's a 1/4. What she does is she makes other things threatening, so she'd make a Pluto threatening or she'd make a Tragic Beast threatening, but her by herself just isn't the best. um but yeah, it's sort of just trying to find these lines really. And again, you've got two options here. I'd say if I was on the draw, I would probably want to keep Quill and Tinkerbell into quite a lot of matches. Mainly because on the draw, finding doing the Calhoun Alice uh, 4 drop into a 5 drop, it doesn't feel that strong. It does feel strong, sorry, but sometimes you're playing sort of behind, and you know, saying I'm going to protect my board while I'm also behind is not particularly what you want to be doing. It's certain matchups, and I'll go through some matchup guides in different videos if I continue with this list. But sometimes, you know, the standard old just Quill into a Tinkerbell is fine. So I think if I was on the draw, I would send all of these back and keep these two, and try find you know, a way into the game and just try get her out there. And that would probably be against a lot of decks like green purple, you know, not green steel maybe, like RP, sorry. A lot of the purple decks, I'd be definitely want to do that. And Steel Song, I'd maybe take my chances with that line. But if I was on the play, I mean, what you could do, we can see if the hand morphs into this. Sorry, just clicked all them the wrong direction, haven't I? You could keep these two and see if you get the curve. So that's two Alice's is a bit rough. But if you go, of course, Ink Tinkerbell, play a Porpsicle, put a Calhoun down, get the Alice down, get the Pluto down, and then get your Beast down. And look at that board. You'd have a Calhoun, Alice, Pluto, and Beast, and that would just be an insane hand. And I think that's sort of one of the lines and one of the strengths into matches like Steel Song, Green Steel, basically anything that's not red purple, no red blue, sorry, not red purple, into red blue. It feels like a very strong line, and you're just playing very strong characters each turn, and you're getting so much value of ward and lore and board control and then card draw. So it's very good. But of course, again, I'm going to keep mentioning, I keep the Quill in, and I keep Hammertoe, and I keep Tinkerbell because we can still just do blue steel classic things, which is just ramp into big monsters and throw them on the board, and just play huge ink advantages. So yeah, that's sort of the main things that have been quite interesting with this list. I know there's one little note as well I want to make sure people notice. If you're playing Alice just to ward protect a Tamatoa, then just play Ariel, the 6 cost Ariel that has ward. You don't need to be doing that. It's really not what the card is there for. The card is just there for giving anything ward is a good thing. So we're going to play characters that could use ward a lot better. So like Pluto, meaning he can't be Zeused, is really good. Beast, so he can't be like taken out or chip damage, so he can continue to give us card draw, is very good. And even just giving the ward onto characters like Smeeing, Teep Turning Sideways with, say, if you had a Smee and Alice and a Cogsworth out, and you know, they both had resist, and then you quest with the Alice to give it 3, and then you quest with the Smee, and you've got 5 lore that turn, is just insane. And then they're going to really struggle to rush into it. Certain decks are, of course, there's some that will be able to remove it with Be Prepared and Sisu. And I keep mentioning red-blue because it's probably going to be the matchup that's looming over you. But yeah, this has just sort of been a very excited approach and looking at this deck, and I'm sure to do some more videos on it, and of course cover lots of different blue steel lists, because I think actually set 6 is quite after we've been like sort of gotten over the hype of cards like the Purple Genie being very powerful and Go-Go and stuff like that. We're really starting to see the meta settle, and we're really starting to see some interesting builds come out.